What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Stocks by the Numbers, and let's do a quick update here for AST SpaceMobile Incorporated, ticker symbol ASTS, listed here on the NASDAQ. The stock hitting almost back to that $10 level where we basically originally started, right? We're sitting here now, new highs 992, stock right now 982, still up about a point and a third, holding roughly that 16% gain. And in my opinion, we may potentially see the low 11s. We can see maybe 1130, 1140 potentially. But I did want to point out this current, looking like, in my opinion, perhaps this little pattern that we're in right now, and just showing what could potentially happen if we pull back. But ASTS, of course, this is satellite telecom company, and if we go back to when they reported earnings, of course, I said, in my opinion, I don't really see anything of urgency yet, and so the stock decides to go from 2 to 10. But congratulations to all you shareholders. Obviously, we know sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, but at the end of the day, we got some big catalysts to come in, so that really helped push a lot of momentum and a lot of hype behind the stock. And looking at FinViz now, I'm honestly not sure how up to date this is, but it's still showing a float shorted of about 27%. So this is why I'm saying we could potentially break up and go even higher, but we might pause for a second before going higher, and that's what I wanted to point out here. But you got the contract extension with AT&T, which of course was one of the original investors. So again, I say I kind of personally saw that coming, but then you had Verizon come out and make the $100 million investment, and that's what really popped it up to the next leg higher, going from about 5 up here now to almost 10. We recently had some price target upgrades as well here. Let's look at that real quick before we get into the chart, and we can see yesterday maintained buy at UBS, increasing that price target from 7 to 13, almost doubling it. Very good news. And there was also, new person on the board of directors here, I believe. I don't know, they say like a veteran in the telecom space, so that, technically should help out. And we also have, because we looked at it only like a couple weeks ago, but we can see AST price target raised to $12.90 from $7.40 by Scotiabank. So that's, we're talking like a 40% increase right there. No, what am I saying? Yeah, we're talking like a 60-70% increase. That was the inverse on that one. But good news, 2 price target upgrades, right? We got buy ratings. A lot of people have much, much higher price targets on ASTS than where it's currently trading at right now. And as we can see, average price target, we have 5 analysts covering, average price target 15.5 basically. Stock right now sub 10, right? So even if we get to that mid-range of these price targets, you're still talking about almost a 50% move from here. But we can see that we basically beelined and went straight up, right? And we know that even if the stock doesn't completely pull back to like 3, we know that we could, of course, have the step downs and then step up and then step down, right? So we know that these stocks fluctuate. So we have to look at also what levels do we have to hold potentially before we maybe really break and sell off and start to give back a big, big chunk, right? And that's what I wanted to show here, because in my opinion, it looks like, again, we still have a lot of bullish momentum, but it kind of looks like we're in this rising wedge here. And if we hit this apex, it's looking like perhaps the end of Friday and maybe going into Monday, the 17th. And right now you can see we're seeing a lot of bounces off of this top trend line here, right? So of course anything can happen. We could pop up here and go to like 11 real quick, completely break out of the pattern, right? Then we'd have to reevaluate. But right here it looks like it may possibly reject off of this top trend line, and we can start seeing over the next day or two, we can start to see a pullback maybe to about like 9 1/3 and kind of get back to like mid-range of this potential wedge, maybe meet back up with this 20-day moving average like right around here. But if we happen to hit this apex, let's just say hypothetically out till Monday the 17th, if we break, I mentioned that in my opinion, this is the key level to hold here. It's going to look like, like the low 7s, maybe about 720. And this line right here is basically it was the all-time resistance trend line, right? So we came out end of 20, boom, we shot up here, and then we dropped down, we started to sell off, and then boom, we pop back up here. and then we've been in a downtrend since then, right? And we also had this trend line we were looking at, and we can see that's right where the stock stopped on the initial pop here up into the fives, and then we got the Verizon news that helped pop it up and break it above that resistance trend line. Now it's above this resistance trend line, right? So this trend line here is going back to, yeah, it looks like February 10th, maybe around there, February 10th, 21, connecting to middle of August 16, 2022, and that's cutting down across like that, and you can see now the stock is up here above the trend line, right? So technically we still have bullish momentum, and this is why it doesn't always the overall analysis and the overall move that we might see in the stock doesn't always come down to one or two indicators, right? Because I know a lot of traders out there, I know a lot of you guys keep an eye on the RSI. And, you know, if something like SPX, right, is if it's selling off hard, once that RSI gets that oversold level and all of a sudden it's at, 33, 31 and a half, that's when a lot of people step in, grab some SPY calls, boom, you catch that bounce, right, do a little scalp trade. So I understand certain indicators like the RSI are heavily weighted by a lot of traders, but we're going to look in a second and you're going to see that the RSI has been above the 70 benchmark for quite some time now. So that's why every situation is different, right? And that's what's kind of, see, I don't even want to say aggravating me, but, it's slightly upsetting me as of late because it seems like, like the saying goes, oh, the exception to the rule. It seems like we have a lot of exceptions going on, right? And that's what in my eyes, that's why it seems very difficult to get on the right side of the fence most of the time as of late. If you're doing really short-term trades, I should say, right? If you're able to afford a month, 2, 3 of time, then obviously you're probably not stressing as much. But anyway, we could potentially break down here and reject, but as we see right now, we have a pretty strong candle climbing, stock sitting here in 990. So that's why I'm saying we could potentially just like pop up and then like pull back. I'm not really sure. But if we break here again, this is the all-time resistance trend line that we recently broke above. So you're looking at about 720. So we could potentially pull back here and then we could bounce and head back to 10. Or we can break here, and if we do, then in my opinion we could pull back here to right where before we took this next leg higher. That's where this candle closed, looking like 533. So 533, if we break that 720, could potentially be the next stop. And then of course we're going to have to see if we hold this trend line as well. Otherwise we're probably going to pull back to a 4, or if we bounce off here we might come back and slowly climb up and try to reclaim this 7, right? But we have to see. Right now, again, the stock is just consistently climbing, hitting new highs as we speak now, 993. So this is why I'm saying this could only be just temporary and we might just continue to climb up and break higher. But if we switch over here, we look at stock charts, and you can see on the daily, you can see the RSI still overextended, right? But we have been for weeks on end. So this is why I'm saying you can't just look at one indicator, and you really have to try to look at the whole picture. And that's why some people, they try to tell me again, oh, trading's more about technicals, not really about fundamental. And I appreciate that. But, depending on what time frame you're looking at, or if you're just trying to see where a potential pullback or a breakout higher could take place, sometimes it pays to look at the overall picture. And again, like I said, in my opinion, try to find that perfect storm where you have like the fundamentals, some technicals lining up all together, and then you could, hopefully nail the trade. But as we see here, top Bollinger Band on the daily, 1132. And that's what I mean. That's why even if we reject off of this trend line here, and let's just say we come back for a day or two, we might just randomly, pop up and break out of this channel, and boom, all of a sudden we touch, like 11 1/3, and it pops up to that top trend line. So only time will tell, but we can see here a couple of weeks ago, our mid-Bollinger Band was sitting here down at about 2 1/4. Now it's up here at 6 1/2. Right? So even if we hang out for a little bit and then we do happen to break, the mid-Bollinger Band's probably going to get up potentially to around $7 and change. So even if we break, right, we might come down to this resistance trend line, which is now our support trend line, which also might be right around the mid-Bollinger Band, and then we could potentially, bounce off both of those and then continue back up. and continue this momentum. But the MACD looked like it started to pull back on 2 separate occasions, but then had big bounces right after. So the MACD doesn't look like it's crossing to the downside anytime soon. And the RSI here on the weekly as well. We can see the RSI sitting here almost touching 81. We're well above the top Bollinger Band. And we can see the 200-day moving average is about 766, which is why I'm saying if we are in this wedge for the next couple of days, then we may see that break and that pullback to like the 760s, the 7.25 level, and we might meet up with this moving average, the mid Bollinger Band, that support trend line, right? We have a lot of action taking place at that level, so we might pull back before shooting higher and potentially touching the 11s. But we can see MACD still climbing straight up basically on the weekly. And let's check the pivot points real quick. I'll let you go. But yeah, overall, I'm happy I was wrong with this one, because I know a lot of you were watching it, you were hyped about it, right? It was in this huge downtrend for years, and then boom, you got some good news and the stock absolutely exploded. So any of you guys who've been holding for a while, back at like $6-7 a share, now you're green. Believe me, I know a situation like that feels so damn good. So I'm just so happy for a lot of you. But as we see here, top resistance level 971, stock right now 990. So we're technically above that second resistance level there on the weekly, which of course is bullish. And we can see here, even on the daily, right, we're looking at about that 11 mark. And that's why I'm saying, whether we completely break down to 7 and change, or if the stock just remains flat, and let's just say doesn't drop down, right? I do feel, in my opinion, that if we take a couple of days off to breathe, I do feel that we can potentially see the 11 plus mark here. But next resistance again on the daily, 1108. And if we do happen to completely pull back, we're looking at 660. But again, we have a lot of levels in the 7s, in my opinion, we'd have to touch first before we can see that 660 level. But only time will tell. But technically, it still does look strong. But I wanted to point out this potential wedge that we're seeing. But we have to see also, this market's about to close in about 20 minutes. So 995 stock just hit as we were looking at stock charts, but we have to see now where it closes. Does it continue to run after hours? Do we break out of this pattern, like I said, and just, continue to climb up? Do we open tomorrow at like, 950 and is it a big red day, So we have to see. Only time will tell. But just wanted to do a quick update because I know a lot of you are keeping an eye on this. And of course, up 17%, hitting new highs, almost back to that $10 mark. I'm sure a lot of you are pumped about it, and very happy for you guys. Well done. Well done if you jumped in this one. And I'm going to end it there. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Thumbs up, algorithm, right? Helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, like I always say, moving forward, I understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, they're very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thanks for your time. Have a good day.